The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, published in 1988. As usual, there will be spoilers. This book is about a boy named Santiago something. No last name is given, though his name is somewhat irrelevant anyway since he's simply referred to as a boy throughout. Not sure why, maybe it's to play up his innocence or reinforce the fable aspects here. Anyway, the boy comes across an old king, Melchizedek, who convinces him to set out on this journey to accomplish his dreams and fulfill his personal legend. On his way, he learns about himself and the world at large, and he even falls in love. The Alchemist is all about pursuing our dreams and following the omens laid before us to achieve them. I love that about it, and I appreciated the reminder that dreams only die when we abandon them, that we are masters of our fate. This was a novel that made me reflect and look inward on myself, where I am now, where I thought I'd be at this point 10 years ago, and where I eventually want to be in the future, what steps I've taken towards those objectives. The answer is not much, if you're wondering. Yeah, I'm disappointed in my lack of forward progress. I could definitely see myself reflected in the crystal shop owner and the baker, sticking with the same routine because it's comfortable. There are some great lines in this book. I especially like the old king's quote, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it." Not sure I really fully believe that, but it sounds good. The heart quotes are good as well. No heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is a second's encounter with God and with eternity, or something like that. I also like the way that the story builds. At one point, the boy, he starts working at this crystal ware shop, and little by little, the business grows. In less than a year, the shop, it's thriving thanks to the boy's ingenuity and willingness to try new things. I never realized that this was the kind of story that could pull me in until I was reading about this kid and this crystal/tea empire he helped create. Between this build-up and the book's fable-like characteristics, it reminded me a little of Watership Down. Maybe that's not the best example given how dark that book gets, but that's where my brain immediately went. It doesn't always make the most rational of connections. And the sequence where the boy turns into the wind, that was a lot of fun. Again, it's a build-up where he goes from talking to the desert to talking to the wind, then talking to the sun, and finally talking with God himself. There are a lot of biblical elements and ideas in this story. The boy is a shepherd who meets this ambassador of God or angel. He travels in the desert, much as the Israelites did. He meets the love of his life at a well, as does Isaac, sort of. He is given just 3 days to overcome his human limitations and turn into the wind, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a clear reference to the resurrection of Christ and his ascension into the clouds. Right? That's not just me reading too much into things. I can't think of too many negatives in this novel, but if I were to point to something, I did feel like the term omens was overused. Every person the boy comes across speaks of omens. It's not that common a term though. And the characters accept things with a surprising immediacy. The boy's father, he had him attend this seminary to be a priest, but the day after the boy mentions that he thinks he'd rather be a shepherd, his father actually gives him the money to buy a flock. Later, the boy comes across some guy in a bar who says he can get him to the pyramids, and he immediately entrusts him with his life savings. Then, a bit further down the road, when the boy decides to leave the crystal shop, he gives his employer just 1 day's notice. He doesn't even say goodbye, just sneaks out the following morning. His boss was probably wondering what happened to his 2 weeks notice. That's the kind of behavior that isn't going to get you a very good recommendation on your resume. Also, let's dig into this nonsensical boy term. Our protagonist, yeah, he's 16 when he leaves the seminary, but then he has his flock of sheep for a good 2 years, and then he's working at the crystal shop for another. He's not a boy, and yet he's always referred to as one. I would have liked more follow-through with the ending as well. The boy, he discovers the divine resides within himself, and thus he is capable of all sorts of miracles. But to what end? Unless I misread things, the boy wants to go back to being a shepherd. Finally, what lessons is the author actually trying to convey here? It's a cool blending of inspirational quotes and mythology, but I often wasn't sure what lessons I was supposed to take away and which ones were just there to entertain me. Not sure if I'm getting my point across here. There was just a lot of things I didn't buy into, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to buy into them. A lot of quotes that sounded good until I thought about them, and then they didn't. In conclusion, The Alchemist is great. It's positive, it's inspiring, and there was never a point where I got bored with it. It's a fun, fable-styled story. Sure, it may lack well-developed characters, but it more than makes up for that with its ideas. Again, it's a fable, and I feel like the relatively flat characters, they're written the way they are in order to avoid distracting us from the lessons and the morals of the novel. I'll give it 5 out of 5 stars. Anyway, that's all I've got. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Peace.